Carter says the U.S. is opening a new phase of its strategic shift toward the region. Sagar Magani reports.
The Middle East dominates today's headlines, but Carter says the Asia-Pacific is the next century's defining area.
No region will matter more for American security and also for American prosperity.
So he told an Arizona State University crowd the U.S. is investing in new weapons and refreshing defense ties with Japan, but also expanding trade agreements. The defense chief is urging Congress to give the president authority to finish a 12-nation trade deal Carter says is as important to him as getting a new aircraft carrier. Sagar Magani at the Pentagon.
A North Carolina man could face the death penalty for shooting and killing 3 Muslim neighbors over a parking spot. Michael Bissiker reports.
There was a hearing to determine whether the man charged in the shootings of 3 Muslim students in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, should face the death penalty for his 3 counts of first-degree murder. Superior Court Judge Orlando Hudson Jr. ruled that there were aggravating factors in the case that did justify the death penalty against Craig Stephen Hicks.
Since the murders, many people and news outlets have claimed racism or religious hatred in that the people killed were Muslims. However, state prosecutors say Craig Stephen Hicks killed his Muslim next-door neighbors over a parking dispute. Some theologians are responding to recent remarks made by the leader of the Episcopal Church that climate change denial is a sin.
The presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, Catherine Jeffords Shorey, gave the keynote address at last month's Climate Change Crisis Forum, saying it was wrong for people to deny climate change or global warming and not do anything about it.
That's been traditionally called a sin of omission.
The comment drew this sarcastic remark from Jeff Walton of the Institute on Religion and Democracy.
A lot of us, like me, who are longtime Episcopal Church observers, would initially be like, wow, that confirms that she actually believes in the existence of sin. So some of us actually saw that as a positive thing.
Meanwhile, Carmen Fowler LaBerge, president of the Presbyterian Lay Committee, found it curious that a denominational leader from a denomination that is unwilling to accept the biblical definition of sin related to sexual practice is willing to publicly declare denying climate change to be a sin.
The question of whose definitions we're using in terms of what sin is and what it is not just seems a curious conversation to have.
I'm Bill Bumpus.
People continue to weigh in on religious freedom bills as well as the outcry of government officials to make changes and avoid what they call discrimination. An author and religious freedom advocate says there are plenty of photographers and bakers that are in favor of gay marriage and making money. So why does a government have to coerce an evangelical photographer, for example, who has religious opposition to same-sex marriage, into being a same-sex wedding photographer? Ryan Anderson of the Heritage Foundation made these comments to Sandy Rios on AFR Talk.
If we were living in a tolerant society, we would say, leave her alone. Let her have her beliefs. Let her run her photography studio in accordance with her beliefs. Go to one of her competitors. Give her competitor the business. It's just outrageous that people think that the appropriate response in these situations is to have government coercion.
Anderson says a lot of the outrage and opposition over religious freedom bills is due to inaccurate media reports. Baseball fans are paying higher prices as they head to the ballpark for the 2015 season. Major League Baseball's average ticket price is up 3.3% this season to $28.94. That is a 3.3% increase, the steepest in 6 years. In final news this hour, it wasn't a home run, but stocks did kick off the week on a positive note. The Dow Jones rose 117 points Monday, while the Nasdaq climbed 30 points. The S&P gained 13. For more news and information, visit onenewsnow.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the One News Now app.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this April 6th, 2015 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony, and you're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com, and you can catch my show every Monday through Friday, FirstAmendmentRadio.com. Well, I'm going to do one more show on the idea of a flat Earth. And it's quite interesting. Now, first off, when closed-minded people view that statement, or people with another hidden agenda, they may say, oh, he's crazy now. He's talking about the Earth being flat. Go back to the Dark Ages, Greg. Well, anyway, I mentioned that I came upon this issue when I was looking back at some of my older articles. And one that always fascinated me is when I ran into someone by the name of Bart Sabrell, who did a exhaustive documentary on a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. We didn't go. And, you know, it piqued my interest because as a kid I always believed, of course, that the Earth is round. I believed everything NASA said. I grew up as a kid during that period of the first moon landing, so to speak, and so I believed it hook, line, and sinker. But when I started to question many, many things that the authorities told us, for example, when I first went to the Vatican as a young journalist, I believed in Catholicism too, in a sense. And I found out really what that organization was all about. And then as I continued my journalistic career, I found more and more lies told to me by people that I believed in when I was younger. So, when 9/11 came, and of course that was on my birthday, so thank you, all of you people out there who foment and create revolutions over there at Borgo Santo Spirito Cinque in Rome. And if anybody doesn't know where that is, that's the Jesuit headquarters over there in Rome, Italy. But anyway, I began to really seriously question things. And I said, if they could lie to us about 9/11, boy, they can lie to us just about anything. And so Bart Sabrell comes along, and I follow his story, do many articles about it, looked at his documentary, and found that it was basically good evidence and solid evidence that we never did go to the moon. And there was one part of that documentary that was most interesting. Bart, as a kid, wanted to be an astronaut, and as he grew up, he became a film documentarian and wanted to know the truth about the moon landings. And so he spent years and years and years and used the Freedom of Information Act to get tapes and all the information he could from NASA. And so the clerks there sent him things, and they sent him one video by mistake. And it actually showed the astronauts that supposedly went to the moon staging the whole thing above the Earth's surface. And it's incredible. You got to go to his video. Funny thing happened on the way to the moon. And I add, we didn't go. And he adds, we didn't go. And then his other one called Astronauts Gone Wild, which is interesting. He's actually been punched by these guys. And when you see the astronauts, you actually, in these two videos, you realize they're lying, and you realize every other astronaut's lying too and hiding something. All right. So I figured this was the mother of all, what people in the mainstream call conspiracies, which really the conspiracy's on the other side. So then comes along, and as the more you begin to realize how you've been lied to, time and time again. And if you go to my website at Arctic Beacon, you'll find a lot of stories that question the very foundations of our belief systems. So along comes this flat Earth theory. Now, how it began for me was, I basically, like most people, would just say, hey, come on, the Earth is round. People back in the old days didn't know what they were talking about, and let's just go on with life. Now, practically, it probably wouldn't matter if it's round for me or flat, because the chances of me ever having to deal with, maybe on a flight in the southern hemisphere is going to take a lot longer than it should if we're on a round Earth, I guess. And that's an interesting scenario, but I can't prove that proves the Earth is not round. But anyway, what I'm getting at, practically most 99.9% of people wouldn't care less, because although we travel more now modernly because of airplane travel and things, really, how far do we stray from home? Most people that vacation. Oh, there's some adventurers out there, but most people that vacation go back to the same spot all the time. So it wouldn't matter if the Earth is flat or round to you, and really, what is it going to matter? Are you going to do some space travel? Are you going to walk east to west all the way around the world, or north to south all the way around the world to prove it? Probably not. Most people won't go anywhere more than 200 or 300 miles from their home. So really, practically it doesn't matter, but what does matter is what you're being told. And nobody likes to be lied to. It's that simple. So the first time I was really thinking about this was, I have a friend who's a Christian, and she would, we were sitting having coffee, and she started telling me that the Earth is fixed, and there are a few people around, and the sun and the moon, the Earth is fixed, and the sun and the moon revolve around the Earth, and they're the same size and the same distance on the Earth. And I, of course, said, "Where did you hear that?" And she says, "The Bible says that." Okay. Of course I don't believe that. I'm saying, okay, there's many things in the Bible I believe, but she must be a literal Bible believer, and I have a hard time believing that. So I thought about it, and I really closed my mind, and I saw myself as being kind of a hypocrite after I started thinking about it. Because I said, all right, this sounds outlandish to me, but why don't I give it a chance? So all of a sudden I'm looking around, and I see this group of people that believe the Earth is flat and fixed. Okay. And so I started checking it out. And boy, I found out some things really quickly. So I did a number of hours of research on it. And it's pretty easy these days. And I grew up without the internet, so it would have been much harder for me to figure it out. But, on the internet you can find most anything. But you find the same stuff you find in, let's say, the 9/11 Truth Group. When I first started researching 9/11, I wanted to get the facts, only the facts. And I find that when you get involved in it, you find that there's people that are working in controlled opposition, that are giving you certain truths but hiding the truth. And it's a whole big web of things. You got the 9/11 Truth Movement. Then you got the guys who say they're 9/11 truthers but really work for the government and want to confuse people so that they make people look that believe that 9/11 was an inside job crazy. Well, the same thing exists in the Flat Earth group, I find. So I look at a lot of the videos out there, and I find this guy named Mark Sargent, and he put together a lot of good videos. I suggest go listening to them, And in fact, emailed him, and he was very nice and answered a couple questions. And then, of course, I go and I look farther, and I find this guy Eric Dubay, D-U-B-A-Y, an American who lives in Thailand, very bright young man. And I listened to his videos and his information, read his information, and he's so very credible, but he has researched this deeply and says that the people in the Flat Earth Society, there is a society called the Flat Earth Society, they're controlled opposition, including Mark Sargent. Okay? So Eric Dubay then starts up an older group. Just recently this happens. He starts up another group that supposedly are telling the truth. So what you got to do is look at his stuff, look at Sargent's stuff, look at the people in the Flat Earth stuff, and see where they differ and see what makes sense to you. Now, Dubay seems a little bit more practical to me, a little bit more. I'm telling you, I get an idea. He's really centering and not giving you a lot of maybe more out there theories that Sargent does. So make up your own minds. And I'm not going to say one or the other. I'm not going to point fingers at either of these guys. And I printed a story about it on my website. I put this up there the other day. And, okay, so then I find out, so I start looking a little deeper, and there's this guy named Matthew Boylan, I find, who is a painter, and he very talented young man, and a comedian, and he claims he worked for NASA, and was told, kind of by people that he worked with, higher ups, that the Earth isn't round. And basically, he's now telling and looking into things, and you can go and check him out too. And of course, there's people now. Dubai believes that Boylan is for real. Then, of course, you'll find people trying to discredit him, which is common. People have tried to discredit me too, and I've told you those stories, so I know how that operates. So Boylan's out there, and then there's certain other people that I haven't had a chance yet to check on this. But we have this theory, that the Earth is flat. It doesn't move at 60,000 miles an hour, and the sun and the moon revolve around it, and it's fixed. Okay, well, so I figure, so now I go back to my Christian friend and tell her, I feel a little bad. I put you in a position, I made you, I didn't even consider that what you believe maybe have some validity, and I'm sorry, and, look at this flat Earth theory. And then I get an email back from her, and she says, I wish you would have just stuck to the fixed Earth. So here we go. Now we have this, and she's a very, very nice person and good Christian. She believes, because she reads the Bible, that the Earth is round and fixed. So she doesn't believe it's flat, because she says the Bible says it's round and fixed. So we have people now who say, so I contacted NASA. They, of course, when I said, is the Earth round or flat, they kind of laughed. Just go to our website and look. They'll tell you, you can go and look forever. One of the interesting things, though, I found is this idea of gravity. That there's even this movie, Gravity. We all believe that there's this, I don't really understand it to begin with, because gravity's supposed to pull you. No, because the question is, how come if you're spinning around and I'm in the South Pole or down there south, how come I don't fall off the Earth? Because I'm, it's like, look at a person standing, he's kind of backwards, right? Gravity pulls you towards the Earth. Okay. Then NASA says, or whoever came up with gravity, how come now you got the moon supposedly, we're flying around and there's this moon orbiting as well. Why doesn't gravity pull the moon into the Earth? Well, it keeps it away. So we got gravity at one point pulling away. When we got other points, they say it's pulling us towards the Earth. So I don't really know. I think basically, when you think of I don't even know if gravity exists, if you think about it. Now, people say, well, you're crazy. Well, just think about it. Now, if you have an object that's heavy and it falls to the Earth, it's heavier than the air, right? Now, you put a helium balloon in the air, it goes up because it's lighter than air. And so I think basically everything, you just have to look at the density of the air and the object, and that explains why some fall to the ground and others don't. And think about it. If there was gravity, why, when you ever see how they fake that when they're walking on the moon, it seemed like, there was nothing there. Okay. Now, if there was gravity, why isn't every step we take on Earth pulling you down? Every step just pulling you to the ground. And I had to take care of that. Man, these things are crazy. But anyway, just think about that. So I don't even know. I believe they use gravity when they need, pulls you down. It keeps gravity pulls it away. It doesn't make sense to me. But I'm sure somebody will come up and say, well, let me explain it to you. So anyway, NASA believes the Earth is round, and everybody that moves around and is not fixed. So they're in total disagreement with the Bible. Okay, now my friend, the flat earthers believe it's fixed. So there's some basis in the Bible with their belief, but they don't think it's round. Now, my Christian friend who really researches the Bible and knows a lot and does a lot more than I do, and it believes that the Bible claims that the earth is round and fixed. So we have a disagreement here. So how are we ever going to prove this? Well, of course, the best way would be to actually go up above as far as you can go. Now then there's an interesting thing. Some people think there's a dome on the top. Okay, so you can only go so far. So let's say you can go far enough and you can look down, and that'll give you an idea. That'd be a good way. Or I guess if you go east and west, you can, even if it's fixed and a sphere are fixed and flat, you can still go around. But if you can't do it north and south, so I guess you could start heading south and see if you can go all the way around. That's another way, but both of them are pretty difficult. So until you can rely on, I don't trust NASA. Okay, and then again, I guess what I'm saying, there's the only one good way is to see it for yourself. So in lieu of that, we have to try and figure this out, right? Because some people believe this, some people believe that. And so I said, well, I've got to find something here that will help. And I don't know how much this will help, but it's better than anything. Because this person named Robert J. Shadewald wrote this in 1987. And it's reprinted from the Bulletin of the Technion Society, 44th edition, July 1987. And it deals with all these issues. So I thought I'd read it to you and see if it helps us. And I'm sure after I'm done with it, we'll still be in that kind of quandary area where the flat guys are going to say the earth is flat, the round guys are going to say those guys are crazy, the Bible believers are that believe that the earth is round and firm are going to say, boy, you know. Now, my whole point is, for most of us, no matter what it is, it's not going to make much of a difference, although we'd like to know. That's just the idea of the human being. You want to know. You don't like to be lied to. So let's look at what Mr. Shadewell did. He did an exhaustive look at the very subject that we're talking about. Okay? And I am going to start telling it to you. And I got 6 minutes here, so I don't want to go over. And he says this: when I first became interested in the flat earthers in the early 70s, I was surprised to learn that flat earthism in the English-speaking world is and always has been entirely based upon the Bible. Okay. I have since assembled and read an extensive collection of flat earth literature. The biblical argument for flat earthism that follow come mainly from my reading of flat earth literature, augmented by my own reading of the Bible. Okay. Except among Bible irritants, it is generally agreed that the Bible describes an immovable earth. Okay, so the Christian friend of mine is in agreement here, and so are the flat earthers so far. It's immovable. At the 1984 National Bible Science Conference in Cleveland, geocentrists James N. Henson told me there are hundreds of scriptures that suggest the earth is immovable. I suspect some must be a bit vague, but here are a few obvious texts. Okay, so he pulls out a few here. Chronicles 16:30. He has fixed the earth firm, immovable. Now that's pretty... that tells you right what it is, he says. Psalms, God says, 93 and 93:1. Thou hast fixed the earth immovable and firm. That means it doesn't spin like Nassau says, right? Psalms 96:10. He has fixed the earth firm and immovable. So he's repeating himself here. He wants you to get the point, right? Psalm 104.5. Thou didst fix the earth on its foundation so that it never can be shaken. Okay, then we have Isaiah 45:18. who made the earth and fashioned it, and himself fixed it fast. Okay. Now, suffice it to say, says Mr. Shadewald, the earth envisioned by flat earthers is immovable as any geocentrist desire. Most, perhaps all, scriptures commonly cited by geocentrists have also cited by flat earthers the flat earth view as geocentricity with further restrictions. Like geocentrists, flat earth advocates often give long lists of texts. Samuel Burley Rawbotham, founder of the modern flat earth movement, cited 76 scriptures. In the last chapter of his monumental second edition of Earth, Not a Globe, get that book, Apostle Anton Darms, assistant to the Reverend Wilbur Glenn of Oliva, America's best-known flat earther, compiled 50 questions about the creation and shape of the earth, bolstering his answers with up to 20 scriptures each. Rather than presenting an exhaustive compendium of flat earth scriptures, Mr. Shadewald here focuses on those which seem to be the strongest. He also suggests comment on some attempts to find the Earth's spherity, to see if it's round. Is it round, and does the Bible say it's round? Okay. Scriptural quotes, and let me check the time. Yeah, we got a couple minutes. Scriptural quotes, unless otherwise noted, are from the New English Bible, Hebrew and Greek translations from Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible. The biblical cosmology is never explicitly stated, so it must be pieced together from scattered passages. The Bible is a composite work, so there is no reason why the cosmology assumed by its various writers should be relatively consistent, but it is. The Bible is, from Genesis to Revelation, a fixed or flat earth book. Now, he says, his quote was, the Bible is, from Genesis to Revelation, a flat earth book. Now, others say it's either a flat earth book or a fixed round book. Okay. This is hardly surprising. As neighbors, the ancient Hebrews had the Egyptians to the southwest and the Babylonians to the northeast. Both civilizations had flat earth cosmologies. The biblical cosmology closely parallels the Sumero-Babylonian cosmology, and it may also draw upon Egyptian cosmology. The Babylonian universe was shaped like a modern domed stadium. The Babylonians considered the earth essentially flat, with the continental mass surrounded by ocean. The vault of the sky was a physical object resting upon the ocean's waters. Okay, so let's see what time we got. And we got only about a minute, so I'm going to break it off there. And just say the Egyptian universe was also enclosed, but it was rectangular instead of round. Indeed, it was shaped much like an old-fashioned steamer trunk. The Egyptians pictured the goddess Nut stretch across the sky as the enclosing dome. What was the Hebrew view of the universe? And we're going to look at that when we take, after this break, on the Investigative Journal. But isn't it interesting when you do a subject like this, how, if done properly, it doesn't seem so crazy? And the reason I say that is because, like I said, it's very interesting because, when I meet a person that talks about first of all, talked about the fixed earth, I thought they were a bit, not in the times. But anyway, we're all out of time. I'll be back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character. as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the left-behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour on the Investigative Journal on this April 6th, 2015 day, this Monday, December 2015, yeah. Boy, the years go by. But anyway, let me preface something before I get back into what the Hebrew view of the universe was. Of course, we'll go to Genesis for that. But let me just say this, that doing something like this also is good for your the idea of building some kind of trust or faith, and where does it come from? And when you look at it, let's look at people that believe what NASA says. And most people just, oh yes, I believe, they look at the pictures they give us, all the things they do, and they believe them without really knowing, right? And so that's really kind of a faith too, isn't it? And so there's a lot of people in America now that look at people that believe in God and the Bible as kind of crazy, right? How can you believe in that? Well, my response to them is, how can you believe in NASA? And so what it does here is it shows you that faith is something for each of us to deal with and for each of us to understand. And it's not always easy. But anyway, just think about that. Let me get back to the order, as we're discussing this subject, and whether the earth is round, flat, or whether it's fixed or movable, and whether it's round and movable, or immovable, or flat and immovable. So there's a number of possibilities here. Not to mention, maybe there's others, who knows. But the order of creation, according to the Hebrews, the Genesis creation story provides the first key to Hebrew cosmology. The order of creation makes no sense from a conventional perspective, but it is perfectly logical from a flat earth viewpoint. The earth was created on the first day, and it was without form and void. Genesis 1:2. On the second day, a vault, the firmament of King James Version, was created to divide the waters, some being above and some being below the vault. Only on the fourth day were the sun, moon, and stars created, and they were placed in, not above, the vault. They were placed in. So the vault of heaven is a crucial concept. The word firmament appears in the King James Version of the Old Testament 17 times. And in each case, it is translated from Hebrew word Raquia, it's Raquia, which meant the visible vault of the sky. This word comes from Riqqa, meaning beaten out. In ancient times, brass objects were either cast in the form required or beaten into shape on an anvil. A good craftsman could beat a lump of cast brass in a thin bowl. Thus, Elihu asked Job, "Can you beat out, Raka, the vault of the skies as he does, hard as a mirror of cast metal?" That's in Job 37:18. You'd have a hard time understanding it unless you knew the meanings of those words, right? Where they really come from. The question shows that Hebrews considered the vault of heaven a solid, physical object. Such a large dome would be a tremendous feat of engineering. The Hebrews and supposedly Yahweh himself considered it exactly that. And this point is hammered home by 5 scriptures. Job 9:8. Who by himself spread out the heavens? 19:1. Psalms. The heavens tell out the glory of God, the vault of heaven. That's the word Raquia, right? YA, reveals his handiwork. Psalms 102:25. The heavens were the handiwork. Isaiah 45:12. I, with my own hands, stretched out the heavens and caused all their host to shine. Isaiah 48:13. With my right hand I formed the expanse of the sky. If these verses, says Mr. Schradewald, are about a mere illusion of a vault, they are surely much ado about nothing, right? But Shamamim, that's the word, the heavens, Shamayim, comes from Shame, a root meaning to be lofty. It literally means the sky. Other passages complete the picture of the sky as lofty physical dome. God, quote, sits throned on the vaulted roof of the earth. And the word Chuyg it comes from, whose inhabitants are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the skies, Shamamim, that word, like a curtain. He spreads them out like a tent to live in. That's Isaiah 40:22. Now, the meaning of the word Chuyg literally means circle or encompassed. That's when he's talking the roof of the earth. By extension, it can mean roundness, as in the rounded dome or vault. Job 22:14 says, God walks to and fro on the vault of heaven. That's that word chung, meaning circle. In both verses, the use of the word Chuyg implies a physical object on which one can sit and walk. Likewise, the context in both cases requires elevation. In Isaiah, the elevation causes the people below to look small as grasshoppers. In Job, God's eyes must penetrate the clouds to view the doings of humans below. Elevation is also implied by Job 22:12. Surely God is at the zenith of heavens, Shamamim, and looks down on all the stars, high as they are. This picture of the cosmos, says Mr. Schradewald, is reinforced by Ezekiel's version. The Hebrew word Raquia appears 5 times in Ezekiel, 4 times in Ezekiel, 1, 22, 26, and once in Ezekiel 10:1. In each case, the context requires a literal vault or dome. The vault appears above the living creatures and glitters like a sheet of ice. Above the vault is a throne of sapphire. Seated on the throne is a form in human likeness, which is radiant and like the appearance of the glory of the Lord. In short, Ezekiel saw a vision of God sitting throned on the vault of heaven as described in Isaiah 40:22. Now let's discuss the shape of the earth. Disregarding the dome, the essential flatness of the earth's surface is required by verses like Daniel 4:10-11. In Daniel, the king, quote, saw a tree of great height at the center of the earth, reaching with its top to the sky and visible to the earth's farthest bounds. If the earth were flat, a sufficiently tall tree would be visible to the earth's farthest bounds. But this is impossible on a spherical earth, correct? So Daniel, in this version, gives you the olden day version of what our horizon looks like today. And there's a test that was done in England. I think it was way back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a small river that runs straight, exactly straight for 6 miles. And he did a test basically using a telescope, using a boat, small boat with a mast, and took the boat and they measured the 6 mile distance, and there was no curvature whatsoever. Now, if you take the radius of the Earth at 25,000 miles and a curvature, there should be a curve at 6 miles. Not there. Go out. I used to dive all the time at La Jolla, and there's a great expanse to the great expanse, and I'd walk out. You have to walk a long way out, so you're constantly looking at the horizon. The thing that interested me, it didn't seem like it was, there was any curvature. I could see that they have big boats out there, these tanker boats. And they didn't look like there was a curve. It was all flat. And I started looking at horizons, and I said, that doesn't make sense. If the world is curved, and do some geometry on what they say the distance of the Earth is and the curvature. And that experiment in that 6 mile river done years ago is pretty, gives you a lot of evidence that this Earth is not curved. It's just my view. Okay, you're looking at mountains and things like, when you're in mountainous terrain, everything's a bit slanted. But when you get to certain places, and there's a video out there of a guy doing this in New York, going about 60 miles away and seeing both the skyline of Philadelphia and New York City, and there should be curves in 60 miles. It doesn't make much sense to me. So anyway, Daniel saw that tree, and it's the same thing. All right, so that's in Daniel 4:10-11. Now, likewise, in describing the temptation of Jesus by Satan, Matthew 4:8 says, quote, "Once again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world, the cosmos, in their glory." Obviously, this would be impossible if the earth would be possible only if the earth were flat. The same is true in Revelation 1:7. "Behold, he is coming with the clouds. Every eye shall see him." Now, if the earth is round, you're not going to do that. And if you go up to that mountain and you see the whole world, it's got to be flat, right? It's common sense. Now, the celestial bodies. What about that? Mr. Shadewell deals with this. He says the Hebrews considered the celestial bodies relatively small. The Genesis creation story indicates the size and importance of the earth relative to the celestial bodies in two ways. First, by their order of creation, and second, by their positional relationships. They had to be small to fit inside the vault of heaven. Small size is also implied in Joshua 10:12, which says that the sun stood still in the Gibeon and the moon in the vale of, I can't pronounce it, Aijalon. Now, let's discuss both flat earthers and those in the Bible who believe the earth is round, who are fixed earthers, we'll call them, believe that the sun and the moon are stationary. And there's a great video on how they rotate around, and both are the same size and probably not same distance. Now, we're told, now when you look up in the sky, they look like the same size, but we're told by NASA that the reason the sun looks so small that it's millions and millions of miles away. And that's why it is. And they have a whole different idea of how this works. Okay? But that seems to conflict with what's going on here in the Bible. And it seems to conflict with those people who believe to this day that we've been given a bad load of goods by NASA. And the reason I say NASA is that's where we get it. That's where the world gets all this stuff, really. And the money they make. I mean, can you imagine if it really wasn't round, how much, what would really happen? Oh, my Lord. It'd be great for the people. But, man, the money that let's hypothetically just say that they've been BSing this whole thing. God, is a fraud worth, how many billion? You can't even compute what it's been doing. Not only does it, even imagine the people that make those little globes. How much money they make? That'd be out. Oh yeah, it'd be a relic, right? Oh, remember those people who believed the Earth was round? Flash forward to 2,000 years from now. Remember those stupid people who believed the Earth was round? All right. But anyway. So the Hebrews considered celestial bodies relatively small. Further, the Bible frequently presents celestial bodies as exotic living beings. For example, in them, the heavens, a tent is fixed for the sun, who comes out like a bridegroom for his wedding canopy, rejoicing like a strong man to run his race. His rising is at the end of the heavens. His circuit touches their farthest ends, and nothing is hidden from his heat. Psalms 19:4-6. The stars, when the earth's cornerstone was laid, what about the stars? Quote, the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted aloud, Job 38:7. The morning star is censured for trying to set his throne above that of the other stars. Now, what does it say in Isaiah 14:13-4? You thought in your own mind, I will scale the heavens. I will set my throne high above the stars of God. I will sit on the mountains where the gods meet in the far recesses of the north. I will rise high above the cloud banks and make myself like the Most High. Isaiah 14:13-14. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 4, 15-19, recognizes the godlike status of stars, noting that they were created for other people to worship. Stars can fall from the skies, according to Daniel 8, chapter 8, verse 10, and Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. The same idea is found in the following extracts of Revelation 6, 13-16. The stars in the sky fell to the earth like figs shaken down by a gale. The sky vanished as a scroll is rolled up. They called out to the mountains and the crags, fall on us and hide us from the face of the one who sits on the throne. This is consistent with Hebrew cosmology previously described, but it is ludicrous in the light of modern astronomy, right? If one star, let alone all the stars, fell on the earth, no one would be hollering from any mountain or crag. The writer considered the stars small objects, all of which could fall to the earth without eradicating human life. He also viewed the sky as a physical object. The stars are inside the sky, and they fall before the sky opens. When it whisked away, it revealed the one throne above. Now, what about these what are called today asteroids that plummet to the earth? And I wonder, we're told they're bits of things, everything's moving so quickly, boom, one penetrates our atmosphere. But maybe according to the Bible, that's just a star. Do you know? I know I've seen craters. I've never been around one that actually came down. I've seen, you've seen pictures, whether they're true or not, of lights in the sky coming and boom. Then they tell us that most of them dissipate before they hit the ground. But what do we really know? Well, that's why I'm trying to figure this out along with you. And I only have 6 minutes, but there are weaker arguments, says Mr. Shadewald. Flat earthers also offer some scriptural arguments that are, in my view, he says, weak, ambiguous, erroneous, or irrelevant, so I'm not going to deal with that. Ironically, it is these that apologists for sphericity, I like that word, usually choose to deal with in their rebuttals to flat earthers. It's kind of like this reminds me of like legal arguments here. Lawyers will, and I have a law degree, so I know what I'm talking about, will look for the weakest arguments of their opponent, and that's what they center on. But they don't deal with the strength, because that really weakens their case. So usually what you'll find here is each group will use the weakest arguments of the other to try to win their case. When in fact, who's really winning anything here? All we're trying to do is figure something out that's as difficult and maybe impossible for most of us, because we'll never get a chance to really see it. Now, many of us rely on faith, and we will see the Creator after our demise, and perhaps then we will know. It'll all be told to us. But in the meantime, we are nosy people. We want to find out, and so we try. That's all we're really doing. So it's a lot of nonsense to ridicule, to hate, to create all this hatred just because of a person's belief systems. And that reminds me, isn't that what's going on in the world today, as it's gone on for thousands of years? We have the Christians hating the Muslims hating the Christians, and all for what? Over beliefs. And to me, I believe, there we go. Now, the Upanishads in the Hindu culture would say, get away from those belief systems. And you don't need to have a belief system. You got to wipe away those, and because it'll lead to a road of knowing. Okay? And it's better to know than it is to believe, right? Is it? Well, for example, I'm looking at a tree outside my window. I don't have to believe it's there. I know it's there. I see it. Now, what that is and what it may be to the Creator and to me are two different things. And what I am now and what I will be in the future are different, and I don't quite understand it yet. And mankind has tried in many different ways. But my point is, why criticize? Why hate? Why create wars over these things? And that's really what it's all about. You can thank the Jesuits for that, because they found out to create chaos is to create control. To create control is to create money. To create money is to create, and they do it by lying. And that's why I deal with them. But anyway, so we're looking at these weaker arguments, says Mr. Shadewald, and that's how each group tries to win theirs. Now, one weaker scriptural argument is the sky literally has openings, windows, which God can open to let the waters above fall to the surface as rain. That's Genesis 7:11, Genesis 8:2, Isaiah 24:18-19, Jeremiah 51:15-16, Malachi 3:10. While the idea and the scriptures are certainly consistent with the flat earth cosmology and the fixed earth cosmology, they could, for instance, refer to openings in a spherical shell surrounding a spherical earth. The same applies to the Tower of Babel story in Genesis 11:4, often cited as an attempt to literally reach the heavens. Likewise, flat earthers, fixed earthers frequently cite the numerous Old Testament verses referring to the earth's foundations. For example, Samuel 22:16, Job 38:4, Psalms 18:15, Proverbs 8:29, Isaiah 24:18, and numerous others. I may add, one thing can be sure, NASA is never mentioned here. Okay. Foundations are, however, fairly well covered by geocentricity. No one would argue that the flat earth solely on the basis of foundation quotes. Another less than conclusive argument that the Bible is a flat earth book is its references to the earth's corners. For example, after this I saw 4 angels stationed at 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds. That's Revelation 7:1. Spherical apologists are quick to point out that the Greek gonia, G-O-N-I-A, can refer to the regions rather than the points. Most translations of the Bible opt for points. The King James Version says, quote, on the corners of the earth, implying that the writer viewed the habitable earth as a 4-cornered area. This was indeed the way many early churchmen interpreted it. Modern flat earth model doesn't have literal corners. The corners could, however, be those regions at the ends of the earth referred to by Jeremiah. Quote, he brings up the mist from the ends of the earth. He often rifts for the rain and brings the wind out of the storehouses. Jeremiah 51:16. We shall return to the ends of the earth. Now, let me check the time because probably I could go on forever. I only have a minute. And maybe I'll do another show because I'm not even halfway through what Mr. Shadewell has opened up here. And it's quite interesting, isn't it? And I hope everybody out there, whether you're a NASA believer or whether you're a flat earther, whether you're a fixed earther that believes the world is round, will take all of this and use it for the positive good. The good of mankind, not create walls and divisions by your beliefs here. Because I assure you, that's not my intent. And I'd like to get your comments on it. But it's a good show. Pass it around to your friends. And like I said, we'll come back and we'll pick it up where we left off with Mr. Shadewald here. The biblical view of the universe is relatively clear and consistent. Biblical statements bearing on cosmology, within one possible exception yet to be discussed, consistent with the well-known either flat earthers or round fixed earthers cosmologies of the ancient Near East. But they often flatly contradict modern science. How do these spherical apologists reply? That's what we'll deal with on the next time and give everybody an opportunity to be represented in this show. And we'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, on the Investigative Journal. And good night.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.
American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. Lufthansa is indicating that it was under no legal obligation to report to Germany's National Aviation Authority the fact that Germanwings co-pilot Andreas Lubitz suffered from depression several years ago. A German newspaper quotes the Federal Aviation Office as saying that it was not informed